It took me a year and a half to write every lesson for the Healed Being program. Not because I'm slow, but because I wanted to make sure it covered everything to help you stop hurting the ones you love. Now that I've received feedback from hundreds of people that have taken it, I can say with confidence that Healed Being is the most effective program out there to help you identify and stop emotionally abusive behavior. Not only that, you'll get to the bottom of your emotional triggers and find new coping mechanisms, giving you the best chance at creating the most supportive, loving relationships you can. Head over to healedbeing.com and sign up for the first 4 lessons for free. No credit card required for the trial.
Life presents the toughest challenges. Every day you are faced with decisions that test your ability to express who you really want to be in this world. We're told to keep saying affirmations and keep thinking positively, but what do you do when that stuff doesn't work? Welcome to the Overwhelmed Brain, where you'll learn to make decisions that are right for you so that you can create the life you want now.
Hey, this is Paul Coliani, and I want to help you learn the skills you need to deal with life's challenges using emotional intelligence and critical thinking without compromising who you are. This show consists of my personal opinions and is meant for informational purposes only. Always seek a professional for your mental health and well-being. Welcome to this show. I am so glad to be here. Just got back from vacation, so I had a break from life in general. But it's never fully away. I bring my laptop, I look at my phone, I read my emails, but I did that 90% less than I normally do, so I am probably more mentally recharged than normal, hopefully. But I do feel a little physically weak and challenged right now, and I might even sound different, I don't know, because I had a cold or flu or COVID or something for several days. And yes, I did isolate myself so that I wouldn't spread it. And whatever it is, whatever I have, but I am here doing the show. So glad that you are here. And I'm going to do my best to get through this show because talking actually takes energy. It actually weakens me a little bit. I feel physically weakened. So I might have to slow down and just take it word by word, minute by minute, and see where it goes. A little stuffy, but I'm okay. I'm going to get through it. So if you've been a long-time listener or you've listened to a few episodes, I change the introduction every now and then because it just doesn't fit. You know, sometimes you'll do something for a long enough period of time where how you used to think of it, how you used to describe it, changes. Sort of like getting into a relationship. How you described it at first might not be the same as how you describe it 5 years later. Your first 6 months of a relationship might sound like, they're the perfect person, we love each other. You know, if it's a good relationship, healthy. And I'm so happy when they call. Now it's like, oh yeah, you know, we've been together for a while and everything's great. So you describe things differently, just depending on what happens. And sometimes relationship descriptions stick, they last. Like, oh yeah, since the day we met, we've been in love and smitten with each other and we want to be together all the time. And sometimes, as you know, descriptions change. That's not really what I'm talking about today, but this is why sometimes I'll change things up. I'll change an introduction. I'll change the way I describe what I'm doing. Not only because after several years of doing this show, I've learned that what this show is about sort of changes, but it also goes in a new direction every now and then, or at least a somewhat new direction every now and then, depending on what is being asked when people reach out to me. And 90+% of my questions, so the ones I get through email, are relationship questions. And typically romantic relationships, but sometimes family relationships. And today I do have a family relationship. Yes, I am finally segueing. I do have a family question that comes into play today, and it has to do with, let me look at it here, it has to do with the absence of someone in your life and how they may have disappeared and you haven't talked to them in a while. And I'm going to address this question after the break, but I'm going to address it in a way like I've talked about before, where you do your part and then let them be. I see that like a tennis match. You hit the ball over to their side and you say what you want to say and you leave the door open for them to serve it back to you. That is personally how I do almost everything, at least relationally, relationship-wise. I do almost everything like that. Hey, I'm doing this part. I'm doing my part. I want to connect with this person. I want to either make amends, like apologize, or say my part, say my piece, and just let them know this is where I am. And I'm open to you returning my message or conversation, calling me back. I'm open to this. And I hope you're open to this. This is how I approach things. So if there's been an absence, like someone got angry, last time we talked, someone got upset, you did something to someone that hurt their feelings, even if you didn't mean to, even if they were mistaken in how they interpreted what you did, I like to reach out and say, hey, I'm sorry, or, if I have to apologize, I'm sorry, and I really care about our relationship, and I would like to at least reconnect with you. I would like to say a few words to you right now and just get that out of my system and also tell you X, Y, Z. This is me reaching out, taking the high road instead of holding a grudge. Sometimes we can do that. And it's not only about holding grudges. Sometimes we lose connection with family and even other relationships, friends. We lose connections for many reasons. But today it'll be about family, at least in this email. And I think it is helpful to take the high road and say what you need to say, especially if you want to reconnect. I mean, sometimes you don't want to reconnect. I've had people in my life that I didn't want to reconnect with, and I never did. And I didn't really miss them. Life actually was fine without them. There are people that I do miss that I haven't reconnected with. And maybe I can, maybe I can't. I don't know. There are people that I should reach out to, perhaps, because what would happen if I found out they died? If you have friends or family that you found out died and you chose to never reach out to them, how would that feel? Would you be okay with it? Would you regret it that you didn't have enough time to say what you wanted to say, even though the last 10 years have gone by and you could have said something? This is what happened when, before my dad died, when my brother called out of the blue and said, hey, Dad's sick, he's got cancer, we don't know what's going to happen. And I thought, man, I've been thinking about it, I haven't talked to him, and I've been wanting to talk to him, and I've been procrastinating, I have other things to do, I don't know what to think about this, maybe I should reach out. And so my brother reaches out and I decide to go visit him and rekindle and just let the past be the past. And it went great. I was able to reconnect and see him from a new perspective, for sure. If you've been listening to the show a while and you've been implementing a lot of the stuff that I talk about, personal boundaries, aligning with your values, being authentic, when you do these things and you meet people that you couldn't do these things with, you meet them again after many years, can you still do these things? Can you honor yourself? Can you stand up for yourself in front of people that you couldn't do that before? That is the biggest challenge in life. That is, at least for me, it has been one of the biggest challenges, if not the biggest challenge, to show up as my new self in front of people that I could not show up for like that before. I think I haven't crossed the bridge yet with old bullies from school? Can I cross that bridge when I see them again? Or am I going to feel defeated? Am I going to feel like a little child around them? Haven't really played those scenarios out in my head. I've just chosen not to associate with certain people. And it has been liberating, at the same time, probably not challenging enough. What I mean by that is that I think it can be helpful to challenge yourself to make sure that you really align, or really are aligning, with who you really want to be. When you acted a certain way around people from your past, and those people show up again, are you going to act that way again? And I realize this is the perfect time to talk about this, because it's November, it's 2022 if you're listening later on, but November 2022, or December. Now it's December 2022, and a lot of people gather for the holidays. Guess who those people are? The people that know you the way you used to be and treat you the way they have always treated you. At least some of them. Some of them will treat you the way they've always treated you, regardless if you've changed, regardless if you're a different person. They will treat you the same. A lot of family does this. If they've known us all of our lives, a lot of them, or some of them, will not treat you any different than they used to treat you. Now, if they've treated you kindly, with respect, then that's okay. That's who they are. That's great. But if they've been toxic and they treat you that way still, then you might have to stand up for yourself, or you might have to avoid them, or ignore them, or whatever. You might have to do something different than you used to. Because what will happen is, if you show up the way you used to show up with them, I'm going to put this out there. I'm not going to blame you, but there is a hint of enabling in there. Again, this is risky for me to say, because I know people are going to say you're blaming the victim. I'm not doing that at all. But I want you to be aware that when you show up as who you used to be, or who you've always been, around certain people who will never change, and that's good to burn into your brain, those people will never change. When you show up as who you used to be around them, they will treat you the same as they've always treated you. They'll treat you the way you probably don't want to be treated. I'm talking about toxic people. I'm talking about people that made you feel uncomfortable, or small, or inferior, because they wanted to make you feel bad, and they wanted to make themselves look right or righteous. These are the people in our lives that show up and really make it challenging, and they don't change, so we have to. I'm not saying you have to, but if you want a different result, you have to. You have to do something different. You have to change, because they won't. That is actually a liberating thought. This is how I see it. I believe it's liberating to look at someone and tell yourself they're never, ever going to change. That is who they are. But they make fun of me and they make me cry. That's who they are. Yeah, but they put me down for my parenting skills. Yeah, that's who they are. Yeah, but they get drunk and they're an embarrassment every time we have a family gathering. Yep, that's who they are. That's what they do. That's who they are. They're going to do it over and over and over again. They will not change. And if they do, that's a bonus. If they change, that's great. But that's not liberating to think, well, they may change. That doesn't liberate you. That doesn't free you from toxic or obsessive thinking. I shouldn't call it toxic, but it's obsessive thinking. That doesn't liberate you from nonstop hope and wishing. It's good to be liberated from hope and wishing in that circumstance, when you look at someone and you hope or wish they'll change. It's liberating to say they'll never change. That might upset you, that might anger you, that might sadden you. But when you look at someone and say, that is who they are, and that is who they've always been, that is who they'll always be, And if one day they show up and say, I'm so sorry for the way I treated you, I've learned a lot, and wow, I was a jerk. I just want to apologize. You can choose to accept their apology or not, but maybe that's the first step into a new relationship or a new connection or a new way of relating to them, a new way to communicate with them. Because if they really are serious, if they realize the error of their ways or realize they were a jerk or whatever, and they decide to apologize and they admit what they did was, wrong or awful, then perhaps that's the way they're going to be. That's great. That is a wonderful thing. But you can't rely on that. You can't wait for that to happen. You have to know that's who they are. So, yes, there is a possibility that that's not really who they're going to be all the time. But who have they been? So when family gathers this year, if you have family that's gathering, or whenever you reconnect with anyone that has been difficult or negative or toxic or puts you down, when you reconnect with them, realize that who they've been is who they're going to be when you reconnect. So it's important that you know that the way you show up is what they feed off of. And that's why I say there's a hint of enabling in here. If I used to show up as a people pleaser, which I did, then the people that took advantage of me will continue to take advantage of me because I am enabling that behavior. I'm not stopping it. And again, I'm not victim blaming at all. I'm just letting you know that there's a way that we show up that helps to complete a cycle or a system. It's a feedback loop. They are getting feedback from our behavior, and we're getting feedback from them. And that completes the cycle. In this case, a dysfunctional cycle or a toxic cycle. If my mom used to clean up after my alcoholic stepfather week after week, day after day, when he would smash things, when he would throw eggs all over the kitchen, which he did a long time ago, when she would clean up after him, there was no accountability. And I'm not saying that she shouldn't have done that. I mean, she was probably scared. She didn't want to get hurt. Absolutely. But I am saying because she kept showing up that way, he kept showing up that way. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have kept showing up that way, but she was helping to complete the cycle. What I mean by that is, yes, if we took her out of the equation, he could have still been that way. But who's going to clean up the eggs? Who's going to clean up the broken glass? Who's going to clean or fix the holes in the wall? He would have to do it. If he was alone, he would have to do it. And then maybe that would be enough of a strong enough of a message to tell him, maybe I shouldn't get so drunk that I get violent, that I do this, that I do this. Maybe I need help. Maybe I do need help. And if he did that, maybe that would be his path to healing. But that never happened. She was there to clean up, and he was there to get drunk, and the cycle is complete. So in that case, there was true enabling there, but sometimes we're in situations where we're so afraid that if we don't enable, it will be worse. If I stand up for myself, it will be worse. If I leave, it will be worse. And sometimes it is. But it's only temporary. The worst can happen when you do something different. Absolutely. There's a risk. It's leaping off the chasm, hoping you land, in the dark. You're leaping off the cliff, hoping there's a landing. I always get reminded of that Indiana Jones movie where the leap of faith, I think it was part 3, the leap of faith was crossing this chasm. It was an impossible thing. He looked, it was like 100 feet away. He could never make it to the other side, even with his whip. And he realized that this was a leap of faith. It said something in the wording of what he was doing is chasing the chalice or something. He's going to have to get to the other side of this massive chasm, but he has to step onto what appears to be nothing, what appears to be a drop. And that is scary, and that's what it can feel like. And in the movie, I won't tell you what happens, but let's just say he's still alive. He's making another movie, so we know that he makes it somehow. But that's what he had to do. He had to step onto what was essentially something that wasn't there. And this is the unknown. This is the abyss. We don't know what's in the abyss. That's why it's such a risk. That's why it's such a leap of faith. So when my mom stayed in an abusive relationship for over 40 years, she didn't want to take that step. She didn't want to find out how much worse it might have been. But that was a fallacy. That was her belief that if I left, it would be worse. But the thing is, the bad part after you leave is always a shorter duration. The bad part is always a shorter duration than staying. And I'm talking about relationships in general. If you're in a bad relationship, a toxic relationship, the bad part might be leaving. You might be so scared to leave that you choose to stay. But if you choose to stay, the bad, the toxicity, the dysfunction never ends. If you choose to leave, it will end. It will eventually end. And I don't promote leaving or staying. Everyone's situation is different. I'm just talking about circumstances that you hope and wish would change, so you stay in this rut of thinking that maybe it will change one day because you don't want to take or risk the leap of faith getting out of a situation like that. Just like meeting family, the family gathering during the holidays or whenever, where that one or two or more toxic people are there putting you down, insulting you, belittling you, bullying you, intimidating. When these people are in your life and they do these things, any alteration in the way you respond to them is often too scary to do. That's why doing all this work, all this self-improvement, working on yourself, working on your personal boundaries, telling people what's acceptable and what's not, aligning with what you value most, with what's most important to you, not taking anyone's crap, standing up for yourself. When you do all this work and then you meet the final frontier, the biggest challenge of all this work, meeting people that knew you before you did the improvements, before you changed, when you meet these people again, can you be the new you? Or are you going to come back to your old self, that child self maybe, that was more about surviving and coping and getting through the situation instead of standing up and being comfortable in your own skin? Can you do it? It is a leap of faith. Should you do it? That's another thing. You got to pick your battles wisely. Should you step into your new self, or how do you get through this situation being as much of you as you can without causing so much trouble that the whole day goes crazy, or people lose it and they get worse. It could get worse. Sometimes it does get worse before it gets better. And I'm sharing all of this with you because I've learned in my life that, man, life is too short to wait for other people to change. I would just rather take a chance and be myself. That has served me well over and over and over again. And yes, I have lost people that I love, that I care about, and I wish I didn't. I wish I had a different relationship with them, because I think having them in my life would be more beneficial if we could get along, if we could reconnect in a new way, a healthy way, instead of having to roll back to old dysfunctional toxic behaviors that completed that old cycle that I talked about. I would rather reconnect with the people that I care about in a new way, in a healthier way, one where there is no enabler and no aggressor or perpetrator or whatever. The person that has been toxic or hurtful, I wish they would change, but I'm not going to stick around and wait for it to happen. But I am going to do something that, again, I already mentioned. I'm going to serve the ball to them. I'm going to pass it over to their court, and then they're either going to serve it back, and then we can have a connection again, or not. And I'll get into the details of that when we come back, when I read this email, because it's an important thing to understand so that you aren't waiting so long for others. Because that's what happens sometimes, is that we wait and we obsess sometimes, and we just hope and pray and wish that they finally see the light. Can't you see that you're hurting me? I've heard that, or I've seen that in many situations. One person says, can't you see that you're hurting me? And because you see that you're hurting me, why don't you stop? Why are you doing this? Why can't we just have a normal conversation? Why does it always have to relegate to this topic? And sometimes you can't get away from it. Some people are never going to change. We'll be right back after this. I just returned from a 5-day vacation, and I didn't take my magic mind. So I ended up drinking tea every day, which I love, but man, did that make me tired. Magic Mind helps me stay alert. It helps me stay energized. It keeps me focused, and I didn't have it with me. Having Magic Mind has been my daily routine at home, but when it's on vacation and I don't have it, I change my daily routine. So I want to share this with you. Magic Mind is a 2-ounce energy shot made up of 12 active ingredients designed to stimulate focus, creativity, energy, and motivation while decreasing stress, oxidation, and inflammation in the body. Only 15 calories per bottle, and I've been taking Magic Mind every morning except for my vacation. And because it slows the body's absorption of caffeine, this is why I love this magic stuff so much. If you're looking for a way to keep your energy levels steady throughout the day, consider this little shot. It has helped me with sleep. I can be more creative, and I feel way better in the mornings, and I'm happier throughout the day when I'm taking it. So I encourage you to check this out. Go to magicmind.co/brain and use the promo code BRAIN20. That's BRAIN20 when checking out. magicmind.co/brain. Use the code BRAIN20 when checking out, and you'll get a 20% discount when you use that link. And if you are hearing this within 10 days of this recording, Magic Mind will give you 40% off your subscription. And I'm so happy to share this with you too. Storyworth is back on this show. I love talking about Storyworth because, especially around the holidays, just talking about the good people and the people that you like spending time with, and maybe some people that you don't want to spend any time with. Well, this is for the people that you like spending time with, and they deserve a gift that keeps on giving, and this is where Storyworth really shines. Storyworth is a way to help your loved ones document the timeless stories of their life. And let me give it to you in a nutshell. Storyworth compiles your loved ones' life stories and photos, chronicling their life or just some memorable parts of their life, putting everything in a book, all their memories, their stories, so that their life is preserved in a wonderfully creative way. I mean, imagine that book on their coffee table, and you just sit there and see with their life right in front of you, and they're going to feel so special when you pick it up and start reading it. And that is the gift of Storyworth. Every week they email your loved one a single life-related question. I mean, you can pick these questions or let them send the questions either way. Questions like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? Or what's the farthest you've ever traveled? And by this time next year, their memories, their photos will be compiled into an exquisite hardcover book forever. Help your family share their story this holiday season with Storyworth. Go to storyworth.com storyworth.com/brain and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/brain. Save $10 on your first purchase. storyworth.com/brain. Welcome back. Like I said, I want to talk about an email that I received, and has to do with family estrangement and passing the ball to them. I'll just read the email and it'll make sense in a second. The person wrote, I have a difficult family situation that I would like your thoughts on. I have a son with 2 daughters, and they have been estranged. I haven't seen or talked to them for years. My take is that when I set a boundary to no longer tolerate disrespect and rudeness, he couldn't handle it and decided to disconnect. I've sent cards, gifts for the kids, and I got no response. He has a pattern of distancing for long periods of time, but never this long. I don't know whether this is some kind of punishment or what. I will say that when his father and I divorced, his father mostly abandoned the kids as well. So I'm wondering if subconsciously he and my other sons are repeating this behavior. The other explanation might be that he is so stressed with his job and all his responsibilities that he has no room left in his life for me. I feel like the years are going by and I'm missing these special times with him and my grandchildren. Thank you. Okay, thanks for sharing that. That's so tough. I think one of the toughest emails that I typically get, or questions that I typically get, have to do with, I have a child who has children that I want to see, but my child doesn't want to talk to me, and I can't see those children. I can't see my grandchildren. That's so tough. How do you get around that? How do you get past that? Well, sometimes you can't. Sometimes there are people in your life that they don't want to see you anymore for some reason or another, and they have kids, or they are related to another person that you would love to see, but you can't because of that one person or 2 people that don't want to talk to you or have anything to do with you anymore. This is a very, very challenging situation, because until those kids, in this example, are old enough to leave the home and make their own decisions, you may not see them. You may be blocked from seeing them. It's true. I'll just give you the cold, hard fact. You may be blocked from seeing them until they're old enough. So yeah, you'll probably miss their childhood. And I don't like saying that, but this can happen. It does happen. So what is my plan of action here? My plan of action is, just like I was saying, you serve the ball and you leave it with them by trying to be kind, trying to either make amends or make nice, do something that shows that you don't want to, or you're not trying to hold a grudge. You don't want to show them that you're angry anymore and they better apologize to you. I mean, if you feel that way, you probably won't have any reconciliation of any sort. So this is where somebody has to take the high road. Somebody has to be in that vulnerable space where they say, look, I'm sorry. When we talked last time, I said certain things that I shouldn't have said, and I apologize. I realize that you may not want to talk to me again. I realize that maybe you won't be able to forgive me, and that saddens me, but I understand. I just want to let you know that I love you, and I miss you, and I do hope that we can reconnect. And I'm just putting it out there. Please reach out to me whenever you want to talk. I would love to reconnect with you. I would love to talk to you again. I really wish you and yours well. Something like that. And you may not feel that way. You may not feel like saying any of that. But this is where the high road comes in, and this is where you might have to prioritize one thing over another. And what you're prioritizing, at least with this person who wrote in this letter, she might want to prioritize seeing the kids. And that might mean admitting that she is not necessarily wrong, but she's sorry. And by doing that, it's letting the other person know that it's okay to get out of their grudge or defensive stance and reconnect, because she's no longer, let's just say, a threat to them. Because that's what some people think. Well, that person's a threat now because they were so awful to me. And this person who wrote may not have been awful at all. Like she said, her husband was like this, or kids were like this, or are like this, and just seems to run in the family. Just people just disappear. But maybe just by saying, I'm sorry, I wish it hadn't gone that way. I definitely take responsibility for what I said, for what I did, and I wish this never came between us. I'm so sorry. Not mentioning what they did. But you did this. You don't want to say that. You don't want to say, but you hurt me too. You could say that, but what's your priority? What do you want to accomplish? Because if you push it back in their face or tell them anything that they did, one, it removes an opportunity for them to come forward and apologize if that is in them. It may not be. But you're taking it away instead of saying, I did some things too and I'm sorry too. You take that away from them if you say, but you did this too. Because you probably already said that, or they probably already know that you're blaming them for that. Otherwise, you'd probably be talking by now. But that's one thing that happens when you say, but you did this. The other thing that happens is, or at least in this case, the person who wrote, is that if you want an opportunity to see their children, you may not get that if you bring up all the stuff that they did to you. And so I know, I talk about being authentic, I talk about being honest, and at least being honorable and honoring your boundaries and being in alignment with your values and all this stuff, that showing up as the real you. I want you to show up as the real you, but you will lose opportunities that you may want to have. So some battles aren't worth fighting. Sometimes you have to do things a little differently if you want them to work out in a different way. Showing up as honest, saying, look, I'm not going to back down, you were wrong, will probably never give this person a chance to see her grandchildren. So this is why it's important to understand that if there's a priority here, you might have to show up in a way that's not necessarily wholly authentic. You can still be authentic. I'm sorry. I take responsibility for what I did and what I said. That's probably all true. Maybe you're not sorry, though. If you're not sorry, do you say it? Personally, I would. You don't have to. You don't have to take this advice, but personally, I think that there's something about this scenario, something about this situation that I can apologize about, that I can feel sorry about. I'm sorry that it went this far. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would just say, I'm so sorry. I did things and said things that were just wrong and I shouldn't have. I did things and said things that hurt you and I shouldn't have. I am truly sorry. I really don't want us to go forward not having any type of relationship. I just want to let you know that I apologize. Now, if you've heard my episodes on apologies and my belief on how you should apologize, it is to let them know that you're sorry, but don't ask for forgiveness. Don't ask for anything in return. Because when you mean an apology, I mean this. This is how I feel. This is what I'm telling you. I am sorry. I feel responsible. I know I'm responsible for what I said and what I did. I am showing you my vulnerability. I'm not saying this in a letter or to them. I'm just feeling this inside. I'm going to show this person my vulnerability. When you're in that space and you apologize, you're being very vulnerable and you're exposing your heart. You're letting them know this is my heart. And in any moment they could crush it because you just handed it to them, but you're trusting them. You're showing them that you trust them enough with your heart that you realize that apologizing, which is a very vulnerable thing to do, often is a place that you are not necessarily weakened, but definitely very vulnerable. And it could be emotionally dangerous, because what if they come back and say, well, you should be sorry, and I never want to talk to you again. You're a piece of dirt. You're a piece of crap. If they say that, it's going to hurt. And if they say that on the tail of your apology, it's going to hurt even worse, because hopefully you're doing it with compassion and love and care about them. And being in that vulnerable space after being upset with them is going to be more hurtful if somebody comes back and says, well, F you or whatever. They're going to tell you that they're not happy and they don't care about you. And that's going to hurt. So my point is, you don't want to ask anything of them. You don't want to obligate them to reply, to call you back, to anything. You don't want to say anything or do anything that makes them feel they have to do something in return. You just want to say your piece, take responsibility, and let them know that the door is open if they want to return, or if they want to call back or talk to you. If you ever want to talk again, please reach out. I would love to speak with you, but certainly I understand if you're not in that space. Something like that. You leave the door open. It's like walking into a department store or something where the salesman says, hey, my name's Joe. I'll be over here if you need me. Take your time. There's no obligation. When somebody says that, there's no obligation. There's no pressure. Joe isn't trying to show you the biggest sale and the thing that you should buy. He is just over there ready to serve you. That's what I mean. You serve someone else, and then you let it be. And if they want to return that serve, if they want to bring the ball back to you, I got your letter. Thank you so much. I would love to talk to you. I would love to go forward with a relationship with you, because I also want this. That may not happen, but you've done your part. And this is what this segment and everything I'm talking about today is all about. You do your part and leave it with them. Because once you've done your part, you've done your part. You don't have to think about it anymore. Like this person who wrote, she's just not sure if he's ever going to write back or ever going to call again. And what do I do? What do I do? Well, you do your part and then move on. Because that's sometimes all you can do. Do your part, then move on. And your part might be apologizing, might be saying, I take responsibility, might be saying, I love you so much. I do hope that we can have a relationship in the future. But if you're not into that, if you're not feeling that, I completely understand. I support you. I support where you need to be. I mean, that's my definition of love, or at least part of it, is that you support someone's path, their decisions, even if they disagree with you, even if their decisions, their path isn't with you. You support someone by allowing them to make their own path, take their own steps, and sometimes those steps don't come back to you. And that can be very hurtful, but it shows them that you are not trying to control them. You're not trying to make them do anything that you want them to do. You're letting them do what they want to do. That's empowering. That allows someone to make their own choices. It shows them that you trust them to make the right choices. When someone feels trusted to make the choice, that's when their good memories can kick in. That's when they can remember what the good times were like. Because if they were in defense mode or grudge, like they're holding a grudge, if they're in that kind of mode, it's not going to be easy for them to remember the good times. But if you empower them with the trust to make the right decision without your influence, without your or any type of manipulation, trying to obligate them to return, or I just want to see the kids, why don't you give me a call? Trying to make them feel guilty or bad for doing anything that doesn't fall in alignment with what you want, then they will either grow suspicious or feel like you're trying to manipulate them, like I was saying, or just avoid you because now they're still defensive. They don't get out of defense mode. And when they don't get out of defense mode, you leave them in a space to make decisions based on bad feelings, or at least grounded in bad feelings. When someone has these bad feelings about you, they're not going to remember the good times, or at least it's going to be harder. If they're ones to hold a grudge, then you have to work within that parameter. If this person holds a grudge, then it's probably best not to say, you suck too. It's just the way it is. You might have to reprioritize and say it's more important that I get this bigger picture in mind so I can get these results. So I might have to do something that I don't necessarily want to do. Apologize, take responsibility, leave the ball in their court, so that if they want to reconcile in some way, and they probably do, like this person who wrote, her kids probably do want to reconcile, but it's just something that is preventing them from doing that. And maybe it's a trust thing. Maybe when they've talked to her in the past, she has pointed things out that they've done, and so now they're afraid to talk to her, or they're angry because she always points those things out, so they don't want to talk to her anymore. Maybe something like that has gone on, or maybe she's been sweet and supportive and everything I've said about loving them in the most healthy way. Maybe she has been supportive in that way, and they just aren't into it. They have their own thing going on. They have their own family that they want to now spend time with, and yeah, that can phase some people out. This happens in my own family, where my sisters and my brothers, they have all created their own families, and I hardly ever talk to them or see them because they live far away. But if I lived closer, I'd probably see them. But really, what happens in many families is that the kids leave the nest, and then they make their own path in life. And that path is moving forward. It's moving forward with new people in their life, friends, romantic relationships, jobs, and their life just gets busy. It's like that song, The Cat's in the Cradle. If you've ever listened to the words, it's kind of sad, because it's about a man who wants to see his boy, and the boy says, okay, let's get together someday, and they never get together. And then the boy says, I'm never going to treat my dad like that. I want to see my son, and it just repeats the cycle. And I don't even know why I brought this up, but it's just sad. It's a sad song because time goes by and we never see the people we love. And but it's true. Sometimes the people we love, they move on and do their own thing, and it's not always because they don't want to see you. It's because they have so much going on in their life. And that is kind of what this person in the letter implied, is that maybe they're just going on with their life and they really don't have time for me. Yeah, that happens. That does happen. That's why it can be helpful just to say your piece, take responsibility, apologize, and wish them well. Say you love them, you hope they're having a great time. Don't obligate them to reply or call or anything like that. Show them that you support their path, even if it feels like their path is leading away from you, but never stop supporting them. If you want to send gifts, great, keep sending gifts, send cards, but never make them feel bad for not responding, because most people will eventually feel like, I got to give that person a call. I got to give my mom a call. I got to call my dad, whoever it is. Most people who feel like they're being supported and aren't being questioned or obligated will have a heart and feel that support and want to be connected with people who support them. I mean, that's what I teach over at Love and Abuse, my podcast about emotionally abusive relationships, is that most people who feel loved and respected and supported, even when there are disagreements, like I want to do this with my life, the loving, supportive person will say, I support that. Even if that person is going away from you, even if that person says, I can't do this with you, I have to do this on my own. A loving and supportive person that says, I support that. Even though it'll hurt me, I'll miss you, I still support that because I want you to be happy. That's really what it comes down to. I want you to be happy. So I support this path, and I wish you much success. If you need me, I'll be here. But I support that. Most people will say, wow, that is beyond amazing. Thank you so much for supporting that. Because I feel loved. I feel supported. That's a good feeling to have. And that feels so good, I want more of it. And where can I get that? I can get that from you, the one who supported me. And because I want more of it, you're more likely to have long-term connections with people like that. There are people who support you in that way that you want to keep in your life forever because they support you. They support your path. They support your decisions. Even when you disagree with their decisions, it makes someone feel special. It's like an unconditional love, and that can be very powerful. So I've given you a lot to think about. This person who wrote, thank you so much for writing. I wish you the best with this. I hope it's helpful. I know it's not a magic pill. This may not get you to see your grandchildren again. I understand that. But you do have to show that there's no ill will on your side. There's no angst. There's no anger. There's no upset on your side, that you are beyond that now. And this is really all up to you. This is really about you choosing to reprioritize instead of being honest and upfront and being the person that just says what's on her mind. You may have to change your priorities to see the bigger picture, that if you really want to make peace, and especially for the grandchildren, if you want to see the grandchildren, then it might involve something like that. And of course, I'm all about making peace anyway and saying your piece and leaving the ball in their court so that they have, or they're empowered to make whatever next decision is right for them. And it's always better to have them see you in the best light possible than have any negativity that might still be in there that keeps them defensive or feeling bad in some way about you. This isn't manipulative. This is not influencing someone. It's about you deciding what is more of a priority in your life and taking what I believe to be the high road, saying your piece, telling them that they're important to you, and also leaving it with them and not coming back later saying, you never wrote back. Not making them feel bad if they don't reach out in years even, which is hard, I know, but this is what you need to do, in my opinion. Good luck with this, and thank you so much for writing, and thank you for listening to another episode of The Overwhelmed Brain. I made it through the show. I'm a little bit de-energized because of my illness right now, but I'm just about over it. I'm still a little stuffy and groggy, but glad you made it. Be right back with my thank yous and my goodbyes and my final words right after this. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Overwhelmed Brain. I want to thank our patrons this week: Angel, Chris, Crystal, Michelle, Wanda, Emily, Gemma, Holly, Jamie, Janet, Nathan, Victoria, Kayla, Andy. Wow, long list. Thank you so much, patrons. These are the patrons of the week, I call them. I read new names every week, those who give to the show, most of them on a monthly basis. So I am very grateful for your support. Very grateful. Thank you so much. And Crystal, wow, I just read your name as a patron, but she also made a donation. I must have said something that Crystal found helpful. She didn't say what she donated for, but thank you, Crystal, for your donation. That is amazing. You are very generous, and I really do hope that your life has improved in some way. So I'm going to assume that you got something from what I said at one point. Thank you so much for your donation. And thank you, patrons. Thank you, everyone that has supported this show. I appreciate all of you. Thank you again. And if you find value in this show and you want to give back, head over to moretob.com, and there are options to do that over there. Thanks again. And if you want a show on how to deal with difficult relationships, maybe manipulative, maybe controlling, maybe you just can't figure out what's going on, visit loveandabuse.com. That is my other podcast, and it will be very helpful to you if you're dealing with anything like that. loveandabuse.com. And if you are the difficult one in the relationship, you are being hurtful to someone you love, you heard me say at the very beginning of the show, healedbeing.com. It is a program I have worked extensively on, some of my most intense material, if that matters. But it's pretty intense because it does walk you through step by step on healing abusive behavior, hurtful behavior, and a lot of people that join the program are losing an important relationship in their life or have lost that relationship, and now they don't want to lose any more relationships, or they want to save the relationship they're in. I believe Healed Being is probably the best chance at saving what you can or salvaging what you can, and maybe even returning to a new normal where it's healthy, happy, loving, and more than that. I mean, relationships are not supposed to be that difficult. They're not supposed to be difficult at all. They have hard times, but you shouldn't have day after day of asking yourself, well, what am I doing wrong, or what can I do differently? You shouldn't have to go through that. So that's why I created the Healed Being program for anyone that needs help stopping behaviors that they can't stop. I talk about a lot over there. Go to healedbeing.com. That is a program that you can join. The first 4 lessons are free. Just add your name and your email address, and you'll start getting the lessons right away. healedbeing.com. And finally, thanks to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for some of the music transitions in The Overwhelmed Brain. And I didn't read this earlier. This person actually wrote a review. I forgot to read this. They wrote, just so happens to be in the darkest season of my 49 years. I don't have the option to leave this realm as I have grown children and grandchildren, so I'm desperately trying to heal and become a better person for my next 49 years. This podcast makes me feel less alone, less miserable, and maybe even a tiny bit hopeful. A million thanks to everyone involved. I am so grateful for that. Thank you for sharing this. Not because you're patting me on the back or anything like that, but because you said a few things that I really need to address here. You don't have the option to leave this realm. I hope you don't have that option. I don't want you to have that option. I know that's a personal choice. I hope you don't make that personal choice, but you're not alone. Definitely. I mean, you say it helps you feel less alone. You're definitely not alone. And I read your message on the air, and guess what? Thousands and hundreds of thousands of people are now listening to me read your message and connecting with you. Probably they're probably saying, yeah, I feel very much like you, or I have felt that way, and I have felt alone. And it is nice to know that there is somebody else out there. So that's why I wanted to read this, is to let you know that you're not alone. You're not. I'm here. The people listening are here. I have a Facebook group you can join. It's over. It's called the Overwhelmed Brain Empowerment Group. Just look for it on Facebook. You can join that. There's like over 2,300 people in there right now. You wouldn't be alone in there for sure. There's a lot of supportive people. I call it the safest place on the internet. Maybe you're there now, or maybe you want to join. Either way, I'm so glad that you shared this. Thank you for your review, and I do hope that your next 49 years go a lot better. I hope they get so much better that there's no thought of ever considering leaving this realm. So I am so glad that you do have many reasons to stay, and I hope that you continue and give me an update. Give me an update in 20 years and just tell me how your life has gone. And I'll feel better knowing that you're still around. That's what I want to know. Make sure you're there. I want to know. Thank you again. And I want to read this other message that says, hi, Paul. I wanted to say thank you for this podcast. It's amazing. I don't know exactly how long I've been listening, but it has helped me in so many ways. Today I did something very scary. I quit my job. After 9 long years, I finally did it, and I honestly think that I've been unhappy with this job for the past 6 years. Crazy. And I also bought the TOB book, The Overwhelmed Brain, and I have a much better understanding of my personal values, and I feel like I'm making more and more honest decisions. You probably get messages like this every day, but I really wanted to let you know that your work means a lot to me and has helped me a lot as well. Wow, thank you so much. I'm not just making this outro part all about me and reading compliments. I get these messages a lot, and I don't always have an opportunity to read them. I do want to make sure that you know that I am reading them. I just don't read them all on the air. And I am so grateful when people write this stuff. And I read this particular one because it reminded me of a story between myself and a friend of mine, where when you said that you quit your job and you realized you've been unhappy for the last 6 years. And, I'm assuming that you would have quit earlier if you realized that that was maybe an option, or that you were really that unhappy. Like you really hadn't thought about it. You just stayed and did your job and left and returned and did your job. And you just repeated the cycle. Well, my friend, one day, it was like 15 years ago, he said, he was talking about his marriage, and he said, my wife is so miserable. Every time I come home, she yells at me, and she's never happy, and she's always upset with me, and no matter what I do, she's just upset all the time. And we talked about it a little bit, and eventually I said, wow, I just can't imagine spending the rest of my life coming home after maybe a long day of work, wanting to breathe in peace and feel some solace and feel connection with people who love me. I can't imagine wanting that, but coming home to what you described instead. Every day. I can't imagine doing that every single day. And he just looked out into the distance. He just contemplated something, I think, for the very first time. He just stared off into the distance, didn't say anything. And I forget what he said next, but it was a long pause. And then everything went back to normal. We were just talking about other stuff. But a few months later, I think it was a few months, he said, I'm getting a divorce. And I thought, wow, what? He said, I'm getting a divorce. And our conversation is the direct cause of that. And then I felt really bad. Like, no, I didn't mean for that to happen. I didn't want you to get a divorce. I mean, there's so much that you could talk about. And no. He said, I needed to do this. When you said that, I, for the first time, tried on that future. Well, present too, but he said, I tried that on. I tried on living my life every day as it has been going forward. And is this how I want to spend the rest of my life? He really came to terms with that. It finally hit him in a way that was so meaningful, so impactful, that he decided to take a huge step and get out of something that made him miserable. He took the step. It was scary. It was even against his own values and his religious beliefs. He didn't want to do any of this stuff because he realized that, when you're married, or he had a belief that when you're married, you stay married and you work on it and you work on it no matter how bad it is. But for the first time, and again, I swear I did not mean for this to happen, but he said, after you said those words, that picture was painted in my mind so clearly that I did not want to live the rest of my life every single day coming home to that. I didn't want to do it anymore. So he did. He got a divorce and his life changed. And I'm not telling you this to give you any bad thoughts or make you think that that's what you need to do. I'm just saying, like this person who wrote, she quit her job because it was making her miserable. And this is how I live. I look at my life on a day-to-day basis and I think, okay, what is making me miserable every freaking day? Am I going to live with this miserableness every day? I mean, this could be something like as minor as a picture on the wall. I come in and I see that damn picture on the wall every day and I don't like it. I don't like it. Again, it's minor, but I don't want that feeling. Why would I want that feeling? So I might just take that picture off the wall. I might throw it away. I might sell it. I might give it to Goodwill, whatever. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to do something. I'm going to move it. I'm going to do something. Because I don't want to feel that way. That doesn't mean I'm trying to control everything in my environment and every aspect of my life. I'm just saying if there are things I can control, then maybe I can take steps to change those things. I've done that before. I've had to wipe out a bunch of old memories. Like, what I mean the pictures, for example. I had a box of like 600 pictures, and if I looked at it and it made me feel bad, I threw it away. If I liked it, great, that goes into the box or another pile. This is when we had paper and photographs before digital imagery. And so I was going through all these photographs, and that one didn't make me feel good. Yeah, but that's the only picture. It's the only picture you have of this person. Yeah, but when I look at it, it doesn't make me feel good. So I know that in the future, when I look at it, it's not going to make me feel good. I'm getting rid of it. And that's really about the time I started minimizing things in my life. I just started getting rid of things that didn't make me feel good. I mean, they didn't have to make me feel good, but I didn't want them to make me feel bad. If something made me feel bad, I really tried to figure out a way to either get rid of it or make me feel different, whatever I had to do. And I do that with people too. If every time I see this particular person, no matter how hard I try or not try, no matter what I do, if this person makes me feel bad, then I'm probably not going to associate with them anymore. I probably don't want them in my life. So if my girlfriend says, hey, I'm going to this get together, but so-and-so is going to be there, I'm probably going to say, no. Not necessarily. I won't necessarily say, you're on your own, but I will say, let's not do it. Why do we want to expose ourselves to that? But if she talks me into it and says, that person's going to be in the other room the whole time and we can ignore them, then I might say, okay, fine. But if somebody said, hey, we're having a family reunion and my stepfather's going to be there and all these other toxic people, I would say, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It doesn't mean I'm hard and fast, always going to follow this rule. I'm just meaning that I'm going to do my best to keep the negativity out of my life. And I know sometimes that's impossible. I know this. I know sometimes it's impossible to keep the negativity out of your life. But boy, every little incremental change you make does help. Little tiny things, like I said, the pictures, little tiny things can help. I don't avoid every get-together. I don't avoid people all the time. I'm not conflict avoid. I don't mind conflict. I just do better, feel better inside of me when I don't have to deal with certain things in my life. And so I try not to. That doesn't mean I avoid it. Again, I just do my best not to have to deal with it if I don't have to, if it's a choice. But sometimes we get into a space where we think it's not a choice. Often we have a choice, we just don't like the choice. That's really what it comes down to. Often we have a choice, we just don't like the choice. Or if we make it, we know there'll be conflict. If we make it, we know that it'll be more difficult if we make it because now it's going to cause problems. Absolutely. There are going to be challenges. It's like that leap of faith I was talking about earlier. There are going to be challenges if we make certain decisions. At the same time, not making those decisions, what kind of challenges does that bring? We got to be careful what challenges we leave in our life as opposed to what challenges we create in our life. And sometimes the challenges that are in our life will never change. So sometimes we have to make the change. Sometimes we have to make decisions that aren't necessarily going to make today the same as tomorrow. And when we do that, we might experience pain. We might experience some huge change, and it'll be temporary because we'll get used to the new normal and we'll acclimate. We'll get used to that new normal to the point where we're making different decisions and we feel different. This is just food for thought. This isn't a suggestion. This isn't saying do this now or take action. It's just food for thought because you're going to come up with your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own plan of action or plan of inaction. You're going to make your own decisions based on your own history and the future that you want for yourself. And that's the way it should be. What you want for yourself. And some people will come along for that ride, and some people may not be on the same ride as you, and that is going to happen. But I hope whatever happens to you, It works out for the best, and it gives you really what you're going for in life, what makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy, that's what I want for you. Sometimes we don't get it, but we got to try, and we're going to keep trying. And if we don't get what we really want, then all I ask is that you keep an open mind so that you can step into your power. This will help you be firm in your decisions and actions so that you can create the life you want. Always take steps to grow and evolve. You are powerful beyond measure. And above all, and this is something I absolutely know to be true about you, you are amazing.